Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to completely shatter everything you thought you knew about handling neighborhood stray cats. We're diving deep into the fascinating and honestly surprisingly complex fluid dynamics of urban ecosystems. You see, our absolute most common reactions to community cats, they actually make the problem worse. But don't worry, we're going to look at the exact science of how leveraging biology can create total harmony right in our own backyards.
So let's start with a really intuitive question. You look out your window, see a group of strays digging up your garden or yowling at 2 a.m., and you think, I'll just call animal control to catch and remove them. It makes total sense, right? It's our absolute default reaction. But here is the massive catch. Traditional catch and remove, or even catch and kill strategies, literally trigger a biological disaster. You might think you're solving the issue, but science shows you're actually rolling out the red carpet for a population explosion. Crazy, right? Well, let's break down the mechanics of why that happens.
You see, we all naturally apply linear, kind of Newtonian logic to this problem. We assume that if we have 15 cats in an alleyway, and we trap and remove 15 cats, well, we're left with 0 cats. It makes perfect mathematical sense on paper. But open ecosystems don't operate on simple subtraction. They operate on biological fluid dynamics. When you try to force linear math onto a dynamic biological system, the system fights back. And, spoiler alert, the system almost always wins.
Which brings us to a core ecological phenomenon known as the vacuum effect. When you trap and remove a resident colony of cats, you do absolutely nothing to alter that physical space's carrying capacity. Think about it. The commercial dumpsters, the mice, the accessible garbage, that cozy shelter under the porch, all of those resources remain completely intact. By removing the cats that currently live there, you create this powerful biological void. And as the old saying goes, nature fundamentally abhors a vacuum.
This creates a wildly predictable disaster cycle. Step 1, the original resident colony is removed. Step 2, all that fantastic food and shelter is suddenly left completely undefended. Step 3, neighboring unsterilized cats quickly sniff out this sudden abundance of resources and immediately migrate in. And Step 4, the population rapidly explodes. You've essentially just opened up a free 5-star hotel with a glowing neon vacancy sign for literally every roaming cat in the surrounding blocks.
To put that into perspective, let's look at the feline reproductive math here.
A single unsterilized founder pair produces an average of 1.4 litters per year, with a median of 3 kittens per litter. Now, normally in a crowded, competitive environment, kitten mortality is pretty high. But because there is suddenly more than enough food to go around in this brand new vacuum you've created, kitten survival rates absolutely skyrocket. Because of this, the population almost always rebounds to its original number or even exceed it in less than a single year. The money, the time, the effort spent removing them, entirely wasted.
Okay, so how do we actually fix this? That brings us to Section 1, Trap-Neuter-Return, or as it's better known, the biological shield.
This endless, expensive cycle of lethal failure is exactly why science points us toward a completely counterintuitive solution. Eradication removes the animals and creates that biological vacuum we just talked about. Trap-Neuter-Return, or TNR, on the other hand, brilliantly leverages the cat's own natural territorial instincts. You trap them, a veterinarian sterilizes and vaccinates them, and then, and this is the absolute most crucial part, you return them to guard the exact same ecological niche. You are intentionally filling the vacuum with cats that can no longer reproduce.
By permanently turning off their ability to reproduce, but keeping them right in place, they actively defend their territory from fertile outsiders. No new unsterilized cats can move in, and obviously, no new kittens are being born. Because of this strategic placement, the colony becomes a living biological shield, and over time, it naturally, humanely, and predictably declines through natural attrition. Now, you might be wondering, does this actually work in the real world? The evidence for this biological hack is staggering. Across 6 U.S. shelters running integrated TNR programs, there was a median 83% drop in euthanasia rates over 3 years. 83%. That is incredible. Shelter intake drops, overcrowding drops, and that endless, heartbreaking cycle of breeding is finally brought to a halt.
Moving right along to Section 2, the behavioral transformation, or dropping the hormonal floor.
Beyond just stabilizing population numbers, TNR miraculously solves the most frustrating neighborhood conflicts by completely dropping the hormonal floor of the colony. Unsterilized community cats live in this high-stress, hormone-driven survival state. Once you remove those hormones, the neighborhood completely transforms. Literally within weeks of sterilization, those annoying testosterone and estrogen-driven behaviors just vanish.
The violent territorial fights? Gone. The desperate midnight caterwauling? Stopped. That incredibly pungent odor of intact male urine spraying? Fades away completely. And amazingly, roaming behaviors decrease by over 70%. The cats just become quiet, localized homebodies, totally invisible to neighbors who used to view them as a massive nuisance.
Which leads us to Section 3, the universal sign, spotting the shield.
Here's a practical question. Community cats are generally unsocialized, meaning they can't just be scooped up for a quick checkup at the vet. So how do trappers, caretakers, and animal control know from a distance if a cat is already sterilized and part of this biological shield? The answer is the universal ear tip. While the cat is completely anesthetized, feeling absolutely zero pain during the sterilization surgery, the vet performs a clean, uniform 3/8-inch cut straight across the top of the left ear. This instantly tells anyone looking from up to 50 feet away that this cat has been trapped, altered, vaccinated, and returned. It is a non-negotiable life-saving visual marker.
And once a colony is sterilized, dedicated local caretakers manage them to define and control that carrying capacity we discussed. They provide dry, wind-proof, insulated shelters, usually filled with straw, by the way, never hay or blankets because those hold moisture. They also implement strict 30 to 60-minute daily feeding schedules. This ensures the cats are fed without attracting insects or rodents, and it guarantees that local wildlife doesn't get habituated to a constant food source.
But what happens if someone in your neighborhood just doesn't understand the science, and they try to use that failed catch-and-remove method on your carefully managed biological shield? Well, caretakers can actually initiate emergency defensive tactics. First, you do a full census so you know exactly who is in your colony. Second, you initiate emergency overfeeding. You offer highly aromatic, high-value foods. We're talking tuna, sardines, maybe even fried chicken on your own property multiple times a day. Why? Because satiated, full cats will completely ignore the bait in hostile traps. And finally, coordinate directly with local shelter directors to ensure any trapped, ear-tipped cats are immediately returned to their rightful turf.
So, now that you truly understand the powerful ecological fluid dynamics of the vacuum effect, you have to ask yourself a fundamentally different question. The next time a stray cat wanders into your neighborhood, how will you see it? As just a pest whose removal will inevitably trigger a massive population explosion? Or, through the proven science of Trap-Neuter-Return, will you see a vital biological shield that needs to be protected? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it completely changed how you view the incredible, complex urban ecosystem right outside your front door.